So earlier today, as I'm recording this video, the 2026 FIFA World Cup host cities list has been announced. There are 16 cities in total. There are 16 stadiums being used for the 2026 World Cup. It is the first World Cup with 3 co-hosts, and it's the first World Cup that will be having 48 nations play in it. That's one of the big criticisms, as you've got 3 co-hosts and 48 teams. Now, 11 cities are in the US, 3 in Mexico, 2 in Canada. Now, out of this list of 16 and 16 stadiums, some stadiums may not be renovated on time. That is a provisional. That's why it's a provisional list. As we saw with the Euros last summer, and as what we've seen with the Rugby League World Cup, which has also been delayed by a year to this autumn, some stadiums that were announced on the stadiums list were later dropped from those tournaments, and we haven't even played the Rugby League World Cup yet. But with the Euros last summer, Dublin and Brussels were dropped for the tournament. Dublin for COVID reasons, Brussels, the stadium in Brussels wasn't going to be completed on time, and there were some concerns about completion dates well before it was dropped as a host venue. So while I'm looking at the cities on this list may change if, let's say, a stadium isn't completed or renovated on time, or there are other extenuating circumstances. So we'll start with Canada, the 2 cities in Canada. Then we'll look at Mexico, the 3 cities there, and then the 11 cities in the US. Now, as I say, this is the first World Cup with 48 teams, and there's been some criticism of the upcoming format and the amount of nations playing. Is that a step too far? Will it affect the quality of the tournament? Will it be as good as FIFA hopes, basically? Right, so in Canada, we've got 1 city on the eastern side of Canada and 1 city on the western side of Canada. No cities, I have noticed, are in the centre of the US, Canada, and Canada. They're either on the west coast or the western time zone, the Pacific time zone, or on the eastern time zone. Some are in the central, but technically they're not too far from coastal areas in the sense of the continent of North America. So in Canada, they've chosen Toronto and Vancouver. Toronto, biggest urban area, sports-mad city in Canada. You've got the Maple Leafs, the Marlies, the Blue Jays, Toronto FC. You name it, they've got it. They've got they've got CFL. They've got every major league apart from the NFL in Toronto. And sports-mad city, they will support anything. They will buy into anything. They will sell out games in Toronto. Vancouver, well, they've got the BC Arena, an indoor stadium, fantastic facility on the west coast. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant facility. I'm surprised they didn't also choose Montreal as a third location in Canada with their team in the MLS, Montreal Football Club. But Vancouver, the Whitecaps, it's the biggest city on the western side of Canada, and it does make it a true continental tournament. What is going to be interesting, though, is the TV times for Europe, with a lot of cities on this list, and there are a lot of cities on this list in Texas and on the West Pacific coastline. That's 7 to 8 hours behind, maybe even 9 hours behind continental Europe, 8 hours behind the UK and Ireland, and about 9 to 10 hours behind continental Europe. So TV timings are going to be really, really interesting with this World Cup. Now, in Mexico, they play with the big cities, really. Mexico City, the Azteca, Guadalajara, and Monterrey. They've got those locations bang on perfect. Mexico has hosted the World Cup twice before, and if you are a younger viewer of this video or a younger subscriber to this channel, please ask your parents or grandparents about the Azteca and the matches in Guadalajara and Monterrey in the 1986 and 1970 World Cups. And if you know anyone who actually was at those World Cups, please honestly ask them about what the atmosphere was like in the Azteca and what the atmosphere was like in Monterrey and Guadalajara. The 1970 World Cup possibly has the two of the greatest matches of all time. The England-Brazil game in the group stage and the Italy-West Germany semi-final, which went to extra time, ended 4-3. The altitude and the heat had a massive impact on both games. Don't be surprised if the altitude and heat in Mexico has an impact on the games there in 4 years' time as well. And again, kick-off times. What time of day are they going to kick off matches in Mexico, considering the heat and the altitude, for the European and African fans who will be 7, 8, 9 hours ahead on the time zone? That's going to be interesting, but the Azteca's at our 3rd World Cup. That is a fantastic stadium. It's an iconic stadium. And I will do the stadium list in a later video in a few days' time, probably over the weekend. as I'm recording this video, and we'll break down each stadium that they're going to be using. Some of them are very, very modern, and stadiums like the Azteca, well, they've been around for a very, very long time, and the Azteca's hosted 2 World Cup finals already, so there is that. Now let's look at the US. New York, New Jersey. Technically the stadium is in New Jersey, but it's the New York location. NFL stadium. A lot of the stadiums in the US are NFL, whereas the stadiums in Mexico and Canada are used for CFL and what the North Americans call soccer, the rest of the world calls football. Are more multi-purpose stadiums, but the US stadiums, a lot of them are NFL or collegiate stadiums for the NCAA football programs. So New York, New Jersey, even though the stadium's technically in New Jersey, the state, it covers the New York City area with the teams that play there. Los Angeles, I've got 2 MLS franchises in LA, LA Galaxy and Los Angeles FC. You can't have a World Cup without having LA there. Dallas. Dallas is a sports mad city. Texas is a sports mad state, and Texas gets 2 cities on this list. Kansas City, that's one of the few central locations they've chosen, is Kansas City. Houston, another city in Texas. Atlanta. Atlanta recently expanded with the MLS. Sports mad city, one of the fastest growing sports markets in the US. They will turn out in large numbers. They turn out for over 70,000 for MLS games. They will continue to turn out for the World Cup. They will pack out that arena. Philadelphia, you cannot have a major World Cup in the US without going to the city where the Declaration of Independence was signed. The city of brotherly love. Now, the Philadelphia sports fan base, they like to heckle. That's a polite statement. They are a brutal fan base. If the team, let's say the US are playing very well, they will let the team know about it. Philadelphia, though, one of the most historic cities in North America, one of the oldest cities in North America, for European settlement at least. Brilliant location in that northeastern corridor of the US. Fantastic choice. Now we're going to go back to the West Coast for 2 locations. Seattle, obviously that's a sports mad city. They have an MLS franchise in Seattle, sports mad location, and it's sort of a good link with Vancouver if a team has got a training camp, in the Pacific Northwest. You've got 2-3 hours flight between the 2 cities, if that, maybe even less. Seattle and Vancouver are very, very close together. A team could base themselves in the Pacific Northwest as a training camp, no sweat there, and be able to play games at both stadiums with no time zone difference. Fantastic choice. Santa Clara, technically San Francisco, but Santa Clara is the city where the 49ers Levi Field is placed. That is a fantastic facility, by the way. It's the San Francisco Bay Area, because it covers a wider metropolitan area. It's a fantastic stadium. Great acoustic effects as well. The weather conditions there, however, there is a crosswind coming off the Pacific. That could make things interesting if a Pacific breeze picks up when they're playing. Nice cooling sea breeze, could be very interesting. Again, it's central California on the central coast. A good coastal location, fantastic, and it's a fantastic stadium. Levi Field is a fantastic stadium, and if you are an NFL fan, you will know what I'm talking about. Boston, you can't have Philadelphia without having Boston, quite frankly. Again, another historic city in the US that they're visiting. I really like it, and it's again a sports mad city. It is a sports mad city in a variety of sports. It's the hub of New England, so it covers a wider geographical location for pulling in fans. So there'll be fans coming from other states, not just Massachusetts, to watch games. That widens the appeal. And people as far away as Maine may drive or fly down to Boston to watch a World Cup match. And finally, Miami. Now, David Beckham has got 2 cities on his list where he's involved with the MLS. Los Angeles for LA Galaxy, and Miami with his team Inter Miami. Miami is a very multicultural city. It's got a big Central and South American population, a very big Caribbean population, and a European population, and a lot of people from the north and the central regions, the Midwest regions of the US, have moved to southern Florida, and yeah, a lot of the MLS teams are based in the north and in the northeast and the northwest and the Midwest. Miami is a multicultural location. The concern I have about Miami is, in all the major leagues, they don't sell out arenas very well, whether the team is successful or not. So I'm looking at the capacity and how many tickets are sold for games in Miami. Now, Miami was used as a warm-up venue for the 2014 World Cup for teams, England included, playing warm-up matches to simulate conditions they would have faced in Brazil. So it's not the first time international football has been played there under the FIFA auspices. But Miami, really vibrant city, vibrant nightlife. The fans will have a great time in Miami. Away from the games, fan zones, it's got the Art Deco features, it's got all the beaches, it's got a vibrant downtown. In fact, all these cities have, are very vibrant and historical. Miami is a very mixed city. You've got a lot of cultures at a crossroads, and it's a fantastic city and it's a fantastic location. So there we go. There are the host cities as things currently stand on the provisional list for the 2026 World Cup. We are 4 years away from the US, Mexico, and Canada co-hosting an expanded World Cup format, and we can discuss the pros and cons of expanding to 48 teams. I think 32 was a perfect number. I understand why they've gone to 48. I do, but it's going to make qualification groups really interesting for the qualifiers over the next couple of years when World Cup qualification begins. And we're going to see, I do believe, some World Cup debutants at the tournament in 4 years' time. But there you go. FIFA has announced the host cities list. I will break down the stadiums that they are provisionally listed as going to use. That list may change between now and 2026 in 4 years' time. But it's quite interesting just to have a look at it and discuss the pros and cons of the locations they've chosen. I think they've got the cities right. I think there's one or two cities they could have had on the list that they haven't. Maybe some more cities in the Midwest other than, what I call the flyover states, other than Kansas City. I think they've been a little bit, they could have had St. Louis, they could have had, Chicago on there. Not having Chicago, I think, is a big loss. Not having Chicago as a good midpoint for the time zone differential for Europe and Asia. Not having Chicago is a little bit of a loss there, because I think Chicago would be a fantastic city to host a World Cup in. Sports-mad city, very vibrant city, very vibrant downtown. Not having Chicago is a bit of a head scratcher, but I understand the cities that they have gone with. A lot of them already have MLS franchises in, and therefore you've already got a good solid soccer, European Association of Football, fan base there to sell the product to. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Please place your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will have some more videos up for you very, very soon.